Imagine waking up, stepping outside to grab your morning coffee from the porch, only to find a luxury SUV parked in your driveway. Again. And not just once or twice, this has been happening every single day for weeks. The kicker? The driver isn't a guest, not a friend, not even a delivery person. It's your own HOA president, and she's not even apologizing for it. Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what happened to Marcus, a quiet, hard-working man who thought moving into a suburban neighborhood meant peace. What he didn't expect was a battle of control, entitlement, and revenge, all sparked by a woman who believed rules didn't apply to her. Before we dive deeper into this insane story, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're into real-life stories that expose power plays, petty revenges, and wild twists that feel straight out of a movie. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. Marcus had only lived in the neighborhood for a few months when the trouble started. A well-respected personal trainer and online fitness coach, he worked from home and kept a low profile. His house sat in a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by almost identical homes, white fences, trimmed lawns, the American dream, as they say. But from the first week, there was something off. The woman next door, Karen, was the HOA president. Platinum blonde hair, sharp suits, and a voice that always sounded like it was one breath away from yelling at a Starbucks employee. She introduced herself the day he moved in, not with a welcome, but with a clipboard full of reminders about community guidelines. No trash bins visible after 9 a.m. No vehicles with commercial logos parked overnight. No grilling on porches, even if it was electric. Marcus nodded politely and went on with his life. But then, the cars started showing up. Every morning around 7:30, Karen's shiny blue Lexus would roll into his driveway. She would step out like she owned the pavement, toss her keys into her purse, and walk back across the lawn into her house like nothing had happened. The first time it happened, Marcus assumed it was a mistake. He knocked on her door, calmly asked her to move it, and she laughed, saying her driveway was being cleaned and that it was just for a day. But the next day, it was there again. And the next. And the next. He asked again. This time, she didn't even answer the door. And this, right here, is where the story gets deeper. But before we get into how Marcus turned this situation around, and made sure Karen would never forget the day she crossed him, let me share something that might just flip your life upside down, in the best way possible. If you've ever felt blocked, stuck, or like the universe is working against you, you need to hear this. There's a code, a simple 3-digit manifestation code, that could unlock the door to outrageous wealth and abundance within the next 24 hours. It's called the 369 Manifestation Code, and it's based on powerful, proven techniques linked to the teachings of Nikola Tesla himself. If you're curious about aligning your life with wealth, opportunities, and success, check the first pinned comment. The link is waiting for you there. Now, back to Karen and her relentless entitlement. Marcus, being the kind of man who believes in giving people the benefit of the doubt, waited. He hoped maybe it would stop. Maybe she would realize how inappropriate it was. But it didn't. Days turned into weeks. His guests had nowhere to park. Packages had to be left in odd places. Even the mailman asked him what was going on. That was when he took a photo. Then another. Then another. Every morning, same time, same car, same smugness. He documented everything. Then, things escalated. One morning, Marcus left a printed note on Karen's windshield. Polite. Direct. No threats. Just a reminder that this was his private property and that she needed to stop. That evening, she knocked on his door. Her tone wasn't just angry, it was accusatory. How dare you tell me where I can and can't park? I'm the HOA president, and technically, there's nothing in the bylaws preventing me from using that space if needed. Marcus tried to stay calm. It's my driveway. You're not even on my insurance. What if something happens to your car? Her response? Then you better hope nothing happens. From that moment, Marcus knew he wasn't dealing with a simple misunderstanding. He was dealing with someone who thrived on control. Someone who believed authority gave her the right to cross any boundary. So, he started looking into the HOA rules. Every clause. Every footnote. Every exception. And that's when he discovered something crucial. While the HOA guidelines didn't explicitly mention driveway usage between neighbors, local city ordinances did. In fact, his driveway was considered private property, meaning any unauthorized vehicle parked on it could be legally towed. But Marcus wasn't going to act just yet. No. He had a better idea. The next morning, Karen's car was in his driveway as usual. Marcus didn't leave a note this time. He didn't knock. Instead, he called a local towing company and gave them the green light. Papers in order. Documentation ready. 20 minutes later, Karen's Lexus was on the back of a flatbed truck, disappearing down the street. Karen stormed out moments later, hair in rollers, robe flapping in the wind like a scene from a sitcom. "Where is my car?" Marcus looked at her, calm and collected. "You might want to check with the towing company. They're very responsive around here." Her face turned a shade of red usually reserved for cartoons. She screamed, "You'll pay for this." But it wasn't over. Not even close. Karen got her car back within hours, of course. But the look she gave Marcus after that? Pure venom. She was furious, embarrassed, and itching for revenge. But Marcus was ready. Because what Karen didn't know, was that he was just getting started. Karen thought the towing incident would be the end of it, that her intimidation and HOA status would keep Marcus in line. But what she didn't realize was that Marcus wasn't just standing up for his driveway. He was standing up for every silent neighbor she'd steamrolled, every family she'd fined unfairly, and every rule she bent for herself while enforcing them on others. The very next morning, as the neighborhood still buzzed with whispers about the tow truck, Marcus woke up early. He peeked through the blinds. No Lexus. Was she really done? For a few days, it seemed that way. No parked car. No passive-aggressive knocks. No noise. But Karen wasn't done. Not by a long shot. 5 days later, Marcus received a letter taped to his front door. Not mailed, taped. No envelope, no signature, just a printout on HOA letterhead stating that he was in violation of Section 14.24, unauthorized commercial activity on residential property. Attached was a blurry screenshot from his Instagram, showing him in his garage, which he used occasionally for live-streamed workouts. The fine? $250. And a warning of further action. Marcus couldn't believe it. Not only was she abusing her power, she was now retaliating for something completely legal. His garage was inside his home. The sessions were virtual. There were no clients, no signage, no foot traffic. But Karen knew what she was doing, it was personal. So Marcus appealed. He attended the HOA hearing, submitted documents, even brought up city ordinances that supported his case. But the decision? Upheld. Karen had stacked the board with her friends. It was a rigged game. But that's when Marcus remembered something important, something Karen herself had said during their first argument: "Technically, there's nothing in the bylaws preventing me." He dove back into the HOA documents. Hours of reading. He wasn't just looking for loopholes now, he was looking for leverage. And he found it. Turns out, as HOA president, Karen was supposed to disclose any and all personal conflicts of interest, especially when enforcing fines. Marcus gathered proof of her bias, her repeated use of his property, the retaliatory citation, and her use of HOA letterhead for personal matters. He compiled everything into a formal complaint and submitted it, not to the HOA board, but directly to the city's housing authority and the neighborhood council that oversaw HOA conduct. What happened next? It was swift. A formal investigation was opened. Karen was contacted. Interviews were scheduled with multiple residents. And while that process was moving slowly and legally, Marcus had one more card to play. Because, on the very morning Karen received her notice of investigation, her Lexus was back. Right in his driveway. Maybe it was an act of defiance. Maybe she thought he'd be too scared to act again. But Marcus didn't hesitate. This time, he had the tow company on speed dial. This time, he didn't wait. And this time, he added a small but devastating detail. He filed a trespassing report with local authorities. Karen came running out again, screaming as her car was hooked and pulled. But this time, she wasn't just losing her vehicle for a few hours. She was issued a misdemeanor citation for repeated trespassing on private property, with documented evidence. That moment was the breaking point. The neighborhood was watching. Literally. Phones recording. Neighbors whispering. A few even clapping. Within a week, Karen stepped down from the HOA. The council cited conflicts of interest and procedural misconduct as the official reason. But everyone knew the truth. The woman who thought she was untouchable had been brought down by the very rules she bent to control others. And Marcus? He didn't celebrate loudly. He didn't gloat. He simply returned to his peaceful routine, now with a driveway finally free. But the impact was bigger than that. Neighbors who once kept quiet started speaking up. HOA board meetings actually became fair discussions. And for the first time in years, people felt heard. All because one man stood his ground. And here's the real lesson: power isn't about titles, or loud voices, or empty threats. It's about knowing your rights, staying composed, and choosing when and how to act. Marcus didn't escalate with emotion. He escalated with intelligence. He played the long game. And in the end, he didn't just protect his driveway, he reset the balance of an entire neighborhood. If you've ever dealt with someone who thought they were above the rules, you know how satisfying it is to see justice unfold. But if you haven't, maybe it's because the universe is still waiting for you to take your power back. And speaking of taking control of your life, if you're ready to turn things around, your finances, your energy, your confidence, don't forget to check out the 369 manifestation code in the pinned comment. This 3-digit code might just be the key to unlocking the abundance that's been waiting for you all along. Finally, if this story gave you chills, or made you smile, or reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Have you ever had to deal with an entitled neighbor? Tell us how you handled it. We're reading every story. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the quietest people have the loudest victories.